Hey guys, welcome to our channel. So, I thought it was worthy of note that we're specifically not covering the nonsense going on. We've thought it was BS from the start to come after our rights. We have a platform and a voice, but we're choosing not to use it in this matter. I did send a strongly worded email to the governor in New York, who's trying to make communism for all. But I'm not doing it. Just not. This is a good way to take my mind off of it because it's making me angry. So the nonsense. So we're not. Maybe we will provide the link to the video I commented on. But we're going to keep doing this. So anyway, I also want to point out that there's a word in here. If you got kids with you, you might want to watch it later or get the kids out of the room. There's one word that's no bueno for kiddos. So, but it's in the translations. There's nothing I can do about it. So, anyway, we did translations and we did something a little bit different this time. So, we took all these translations and tried to make phrases and run them like "give the money to your Stone" and Led Zeppelin. But we didn't really find anything definitive, kind of like, Willa Thorson looked more like a message. This almost looks more like a message of some sort. But we ran every word in the translation through the gematria calculator. All right, and they all hook to another word in the translation. I think the odds of that are small unless they definitely connect and it's code. So what you had, we've done this enough that I'm just gonna, there's a lot of information here, but your changes, exact direct changes from here, from broken to troubled and ever to never, are KNTULDN. And that's all you got. And we moved this U like a computer would throughout the whole thing and tried to get as much information as we could. All right? So, we started out with KUN, and that ended up being when in Finnish. KU ends up being where in Kurdish. KUT ends up being kunt in Dutch. There's the word. Nut is just nut in English. No translation necessary. It was just there. NUL ends up being no in French. UN ends up being a in French. UT ends up being out, OUT in Swedish. TU ends up being U in Spanish. TUL ends up being term in Maltese, TERM. TUD ends up being can in Hungarian. LUD ends up being crazy in Bosnian. Now, the word crazy, by the way, is in better. I should have known you're crazy. Right? It's in there. I don't know if it's relevant or if it's just a coincidence. That could be a coincidence, but that word is in fact in the song. Incidentally. LUK ends up being close in Danish. KUL ends up being fun in Danish. NUD ends up being nude in Romanian. NUN ends up being now in German. TUN ends up being to do in German. UL ends up being the in Romanian. UD ends up being out, OUT in Danish. That's the second time we have out. DU ends up being of in French. NU ends up being not in Romanese. LU ends up being road in Chinese. DUT is I have in Basque. DUK ends up being cloth in Swedish. LUT is solder in Polish. TUNK ends up being we in Hungarian. TUND ends up being how in Estonian. TUNN ends up being thin in Swedish. NUDN is boring in Polish. NUDL is board in Czech. KUND ends up being customer in Swedish. KUNN ends up being municipality in Estonian. NUTK ends up being speech in Uzbek. TULD ends up being fire in Estonian. ULD is wool, WOOL, like a sheep, in Danish. UNT ends up being butter in Romanian. UND ends up being and in German. UNN ends up being treat in Norwegian. TNUD ends up being have done in Estonian. KNUD ends up being focal in Danish, as in focal point. KUNT ends up being can in Dutch. NUND ends up being now in German. DUNT ends up being road. That's the second time we've got road as well in Latin. I think we had now twice too, maybe. Anyway, yeah, now is twice as well. NUNT ends up being butting, BUTTING, like butting up against something in Latin. And NTUN ends up being refreshment in some language I have a hard time pronouncing. You're still up. Let's do that. Let's see if I can. Yoruba. All right. So, again, we ran these as some phrases that we saw, and nothing really interesting came up that we would have it, hooked into this decode. So, instead, my fiance suggested that we run this through the gematria calculator. So we did. And every word hooks up to another word. I don't think it's a coincidence at all. I think this is another code within the code if somebody could decode it. I don't know that I'm the guy to do that, but I can show you the code. So you start with the number 50, and I'm going to provide the gematria calculator. Oh, there are 4 base ciphers on these. And we took all these translations and got the 4 base ciphers for each word, all the way down the list, kind of like we did with the quantum computer thing, with the quantum computer connections. All right, we got all 4 base ciphers, and then we started matching them up. I thought I'd hit a wall at the end with butting, but I did not. So, anyway, you start with 50, and when sums to 50, and cunt sums to 50. You move on to 29. Speech sums to 29. Fire sums to 29. And no sums to 29. I hope I didn't miss the word speech. And did I miss the word speech? What was speech? NUTK is speech in Uzbek. All right, if I missed it. Something told me I didn't recall saying it. But anyway, speech 29, fire 29, no 29. If you move on from that, you have 11. And no sums to 11. Out, OUT, sums to 11. You sums to 11. And now sums to 11. I swear I missed the word hours in hour on the clock as well, guys. Did I? No, you got it. I got it. Okay. A lot of numbers, guys. A lot of words. Sorry. So, if you move on from 11, you have 38, and thin sums to 38, fire sums to 38, and have done sums to 38. If you move on from that, you have 23, and when sums to 23, where sums to 32, a mirror of 23, cunt sums to 23, not sums to 32, the mirror of 23, cloth sums to 23, and butter sums to 23. If you move on from that, you have 19, and nude sums to 19, treat sums to 19, and focal sums to 19. Nude, treat, and focal all sum to 19. I don't think I have to tell you the irony there. So, if you move on from that, you get 25, and no sums to 25, out sums to 25, term sums to 52, a reflection of 25 and 25. Now sums to 52, a reflection of 25. Road sums to 25, speech sums to 25, and fire sums to 25. And if you move on from that, you have 16. Out sums to 16. Now, mind you, some of these words are in here twice. Out sums to, but I didn't write them twice. They're just in here twice. Out sums to 16. Speech sums to 106, which is the same value as 16. Now sums to 16, and wool sums to 16. All right, if you move on from that, you have 13. When sums to 13. Cunt sums to 13. Fun sums to 13. And not also sums to 13. If you move on from that, you have refreshment, which sums to 58. We're on 58, by the way. And when sums to 58. And if you move on from that, you have 24. Butting sums to 42, a reflection of 24, and thin sums to 24, a reflection of 42. And if you go on from that, you have 56. Out sums to 56, term sums to 56, boring sums to 65, a reflection of 56. Speech sums to 56, and wool sums to 65, a reflection of 26. Like they're trying to pull the wool over my eyes here. But they can't. I'm on to them. So if you move on from that, you got 26, guys. Nut sums to 26. A, alone, sums to 26. Crazy sums to 62, a reflection of 26, and also sums to 26. Crazy sums to 62 as well as 26. We sums to 26. Hour sums to 62 as well as 26. Board sums to 26. Municipality sums to 62. And sums to 62. And focal sums to 26. And I think they're all hooked up right now. But if you move on from that, well, no, there's still one that isn't. That's right. If you move on from that, you have nude sums to 44 and board sums to 44. And if you move on from that, you have 20. Term sums to 20, you sums to 20, and wool sums to 20. And after that, you have 18. Can sums to 18. Close, C-L-O-S-E, sums to 18 and 81, a reflection of 18. And to do sums to 18 and 81, or no, excuse me, to do sums to 18 twice, my bad. And 48, you have customer sums to 48 and the sums to 48. And now I think they're all officially hooked to another word in the search, but we're going to press on. Hook them even more. 17, nut sums to 17, nude sums to 17, and sums to 17. The word and. And guys, these are all words we translated. 58, cloth sums to 58, cunt sums to 58, and when sums to 58. 33, a really big number for the Masons, guys. The sums to 33, of sums to 33, OF, and customer also sums to 33. If you move on from that, you have 45. I have sums to 45, and to do sums to 54, a reflection of 45. After that, you have 12. The sums to 12. Of sums to 21, a reflection of 12 and 12. Thin sums to 21, a reflection of 12. And customer sums to 102, which is the same value as 12. If you move on from that, you got 46. Hour sums to 46, and nude sums to 64, a reflection of 46. And by the way, that is H-O-U-R, the hour on a clock. If you move on from that, you have 14. Fun sums to 41, a reflection of 14, and not sums to 14. If you move on from that, you have 1. A sums to 1 twice, 1 and 1. We sums to 10, which is the same value as 1. Nut sums to 10, which is the same value as 1. And, the word and, sums to 10, which is the same value as 1. If you move on from that, you got 20. U sums to 20, road sums to 20, and term sums to 20. If you move on from that, you got 28. Solder sums to 28, crazy sums to 28, and we sums to 28. Then you got 7 guys. Road sums to 70, and no sums to 7, same value. 9 can sums to 9, and I have sums to 90. Then you have 54. You have close sums to 54 twice in 2 of the 4 ciphers. 2 do sums to 54, and I have sums to 45, a reflection of 54. And last but not least, well, maybe least, 27. Close sums to 27, and I have sums to 27 twice. And that connects every word in the translation to another word in that translation. Seemingly random words. I mean, you got a few phrases in there if you look real hard, but, you know, I mean, generally, it's like it's, you know, there's information missing. It's like you're looking at a message with missing information, unless the information isn't missing, and the information is actually in these numbers, whatever I did with it. Oh, unless the information is in these numbers, guys. And that could be the case, because they all hook up. So I've ran this longer than I wanted to, but that's a lot to get through. And that gets us through translations. Next, we will go through and turn all of those extractions into numbers, and we'll start again. And some real interesting stuff usually comes up in the numbers. We'll see this time. So for now, thanks for all your thumbs up, thumbs down. Thanks for your comments, leads, feedback, and subscriptions. And thanks for watching, guys. Sorry we ran this long. And for now, you guys have a great rest of your day, night, evening. Right? Is it evening now? I think it's evening now. And so on. Have a great rest of your day, night, evening.